Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Xander Sprague.
Hello, Epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Xander Sprague, and today I am so honored to be joined by Teri Brown. Teri, tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, so that could be long or short. I'll do the short version for you. So I'm Teri M. Brown. I am an author, a podcaster, a book reviewer, all things writing and reading. That's pretty much who I am.
Cool. So, let's start off and talk about the book or books that you have written.
Yeah, so I've written 3 novels, Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, An Enemy Like Me, and Daughters of Green Mountain Gap. They're all in the historical fiction genre. I have another novel coming out in April. It's called Peg Unhinged. It is a humorous women's fiction. And I also have, I have a children's book because my granddaughter asked me when I was going to write one for her. And so that's called Little Lola and Her Big Dream. And then I have my kind of memoir because my husband and I rode 3,102 miles across the United States on a tandem bicycle. And when I got back from that
we got to
trip,
talk about that one.
Yeah. And when I got back from that trip, I realized that I had learned some things. So I wrote a book called 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure.
There you go. Well, now, as a road cyclist myself, I got to talk about that epic adventure of riding across the country on a tandem bike. And for my audience, in the cycling world, we sometimes refer to tandem bikes as divorcicles.
Yes. And I have heard that over and over and over when people would say, like, are you guys still married?
Yeah.
And they were very sincere. Fortunately, Bruce and I had an amazing relationship, and the bicycle trip only made it stronger.
Absolutely.
You have that opportunity to really strengthen the relationship or realize that you are not meant to be together. Because on a tandem, you have to work together. Everything is together, not just pedaling, starting the bike, stopping the bike, knowing when to take a break, knowing how fast to go, trying to find a cadence that meets both people, all of it.
And more importantly, one person has to wrest control of the bike to the person up front who actually has the steering handlebars. And for many couples, very strong relationship, but the not being in control can be a huge part of why we jokingly call it divorcicle.
Right.
There is so much cooperation and there's trust, right?
Right. And luckily for me, Bruce was avid cyclist. When we decided to take this trip, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years.
Please tell me you've done at least a little training before
about a year's worth. And so we did some training. Point that I said, hey, count me in on this epic adventure. I want to do something like this. We were dating. I hadn't been on a bicycle in 40 years. And I thought I wanted to do something big. I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship. I spent 14 years married to an emotionally abusive man. I got out of that relationship and I didn't believe in myself anymore. And I kept thinking I wanted to do something big and bold that would prove to the world that I still had value. Well, it turns out that the world didn't doubt it. I doubted it. And I needed to do something big and bold to prove it to me. And then I met Bruce, and he told me he'd always wanted to ride across the U.S. on a bicycle. And I said, are you going to talk about it until the day you die, or are you going to do it? Right? And he said, no, I really want to do it. And I said, count me in. Well, it did not take long to realize that as an experienced cyclist, there was no amount of training that I could do to catch up to where he was. And that this trip would be no fun if we took side-by-side bicycles, because he would always be ahead of me, or he would always have to be holding back so much that he wouldn't have fun. But on a tandem, he can't go faster than me and I can't go slower than him. We have to find a way to work together to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, so exemplifying that epic begins with one step forward, and those things that we say. I mean, that's kind of how my whole epic idea came about, which is we all say, oh,
Yes.
someday I'd like to do this.
Yes.
I'd like to ride across the country. I'd like to write a book. I'd like to run a marathon. I'd like to travel somewhere. And we all do it. I mean, I do it. But I realize that the epic things that I've done in my life happen because I just decided to try and do it. And here's the thing, it's try and do it. When you guys set off on your adventure, every intention of finishing, but realizing there are a lot of things, a lot of detours, roadblocks that will come up that may make it that you don't finish it. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't successful. It just means we set a destination, but we didn't quite hit it yet, you know?
Well, and for us, I mean, we have to change our mind along the way. You know, we had envisioned that we would ride every single mile with no help, that we would do it, and we would never get off the bicycle. We were never pushing. Like, we had this in our minds. Well, it didn't take long to recognize that when you're going over big, huge mountains and you live on the coast of North Carolina, and that's not what you're used to, that there are times where pushing the bicycle makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
You know, get off and push because there's no riding this, you know, you got a grade that's, you know, way too high and you're on a tandem pulling a trailer full of junk. There's no way you're getting up this hill. We had a patch of road where it was torn up completely. They were doing road construction. It was down to the road bed.
Yeah.
We can't ride across that. Someone put us in a truck, took us across. You know, we could have seen those things as failure. Now we didn't do what we set out to do. But the truth is we set out to ride across the United States on a tandem, and we did it. It just looked a little different than we had envisioned it before we got on the road and realized what we were going to see.
And isn't that true of every epic adventure?
Oh, yeah.
Be it writing a book. You sit down and go, I want to write a book. And where you start and where you end oftentimes are not necessarily exactly
where you thought.
Where you thought or how you got there or whatever. And so did you guys rode east to west?
We rode west to east. So we flew out to Astoria, Oregon.
Okay.
Sent our bicycle out.
Yeah.
And then rode back to the East Coast.
Okay.
Because prevailing winds are west to east. And so you want the winds behind you as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Right? However, when we were in Montana, apparently the winds got very confused, did not know which way they were supposed to be blowing. And for 3 weeks, they blew in our face and it was horrible. And I really don't care if I ever see Montana again.
Well, that's fair enough.
Eastern Montana in particular.
There you go. And that
Western Montana is beautiful with all the mountains. You get into Eastern Montana and you're going an average of 40 miles a day, and it takes a long time to get through Montana.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I've done, you know, centuries and metric centuries, and there's certainly some of those, and even just on rides where, you know, I'm like, oh, let me go explore someplace new. And then I'm like, well, I'm happy I saw that, but that is not a road that I feel I need to go on ever again. And I do totally get that there, you know, people who don't ride, yet there are times where you, as you said, you hit a grade that is so steep that you have to get off because otherwise you'll tip over because you just get to a point where you cannot push the bike fast enough to keep balanced.
Right. My husband wore a heart monitor.
Yeah.
To keep up. And when his heart rate would get above a certain point, he would say, we're getting off the bike and pushing
Absolutely.
It. Doesn't make any sense for me to wear myself out. We can get to the top. I can get us to the top, but we'll never go anywhere past then because I will then be done.
Absolutely. I used to, when I first started cycling, where I lived, there was a great road and there was this hill that just literally got progressively steeper.
Worse.
When I remember saying, all right, I'm going to make it to the top of the hill. And I did, but I swear I was probably about 2 heartbeats away from
From
it
right.
it's getting a little gray on the sides, and then
No, exactly, and then you get so you know, if you force your way and there you are, now what? And for us, we had to get to the next place where we could camp or get a hotel,
oh,
right?
absolutely.
And so we had to be sure we could get there.
Yeah.
You can't use all of your energy on hill number 1
No,
and then
no.
have 28 miles that you still have to ride. Like, you have to know how to. So I'm so thankful that he was the one in charge of that because he knew his body well. I
Yeah.
did not. I was still figuring it all out, and he knew it well, and he knew when to say, "We're getting off the bike." For
Absolutely.
for me, it was difficult. We'd get off the bike and cars would go by, and I would think, "What are they thinking of us?" I was very concerned with what other people were thinking. After a while, once we'd been out on the road for several weeks, my thought was, I don't care what they're thinking until they're out here doing it with me.
Look, Teri,
Right.
my attitude on this is if however I have to complete this, and
Right.
look, my audience knows I run marathons, and there was walking involved. There was, I did a 50K ultra, and that was mainly like on bike paths and stuff. But there was absolutely the last 5 miles was slightly uphill. By that point, that was
You had
miles.
nothing left. Right.
That was miles 27 through 31 or so, and I was like, I want to run up this hill, but I really don't have enough energy. I had to go down through this sort of off of this levee and on this trail, and I'm like, "Oh, let me just keep," I could push myself a little, but there was loose sand, and I'm like, "I am not getting 30 miles into a 31-mile race and twist my ankle or something, be that
Yeah.
close, like, just stop and walk, you're okay. The goal is
Right.
to finish." And just
Right.
like your day, you're like, "We gotta do our 40 miles." You're right, if you burn yourself out on mile 5, it is a long.
It's a long day. It's
Yeah,
a
it
long
is.
day. Yeah. We really did. We had to kind of stop and reevaluate, figure out, like, what are we trying to achieve here? It isn't us. It wasn't a certain number of miles a day. It wasn't getting done in a certain period of time. It was getting done. It was, can we make it? And if that means we had to take a day break because we were now exhausted, then we took a day break. And if the weather was going to be so bad that riding was really going to be more dangerous, then we took a break. I mean, we soon realized this was about us, and we got to make the rules. There wasn't someone standing over us saying, "This is what success looks like."
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely, Terry. Couldn't say it better myself. So, did you take a more northerly route, or did you sort of go and then you drop down? Because
So
obviously to get back to North Carolina, if you're up in
we
Montana,
eventually right,
you gotta do south a
right.
little.
So what we did was we started in Astoria, Oregon. We actually finished in Washington, DC, so we
Okay,
didn't come
okay.
all the way down.
Right.
But what we did was we went what's known as the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Okay. Yep.
Until we got over the Rockies, because that passes over the Rockies at Lolo Pass, which is one of the lowest passes that you can cross over the Rockies in that
That's
portion.
a
And
low being a relative term,
yes,
right?
relative, but it was, a couple of thousand feet, and that makes a big difference on a
Yeah.
tandem. So once we did that, then we actually went north and got on Route 2 and took Route 2 almost the entire way across the United States. And Route 2 is really close to the Canadian border.
Okay.
So a good portion of the time, we were within 20 to 30 miles of Canada.
Oh, wow.
We went into UP, Michigan, and went up and around Michigan, kind of down around the Cleveland area. From Cleveland, we went into Pittsburgh, and from Pittsburgh to DC. So
Got
that's
it.
kind of the
I
route
got
that
it.
we
And,
took.
and
Yeah.
I assume that you started this in probably the springtime or late
We had
spring.
in Oh, so you wanna hear a great story?
I do.
We had anticipated starting in May because
Okay.
that made the most sense.
Sure.
But we were planning to go during 2020. Do you remember what was happening in 2020
I am familiar. I had
with
not
with
forgotten.
COVID? So we thought that our trip was over, like we weren't gonna be able to go. But we were so sad about that, having planned and like we were so ready to go that we decided as long as we could start by July 15th, that we could still make it across. We actually started like on June 28th.
Oh, good.
So much later than we had anticipated, but we finished up the first week of October. It was a little chillier than we had wanted, but we were fine. It was good.
Snow had not started to fly quite yet.
We did not have snow. We made it through, but yeah, there was a point there where we didn't think we were going to get to go. Then things started opening up just enough that we decided we're in the US. Worst case scenario, we'll rent a car and come home.
Yep. Definitely.
I mean, you can break that tandem down quite a bit and get it into a car, and we'll just come home. And as it turns out, being where we were up north in very small communities, we didn't see a lot of COVID. Now, we saw a lot of things closed. People were not out and about, but we never really ran into pockets where people were afraid. It happened later after we made it through. When we were home, things started happening up north. And I think it's because the colder weather came, more and more people were inside. They were starting to feel better. They went out into, the
group
stores
event.
and,
Yeah.
right.
And I guess
For us, it
another
worked.
advantage for you doing it when you did was there was a lot less traffic.
There was a lot less traffic. The issues that we had, though, was there was a lot less traffic, but often there were less places open to get food, less places open to find a place to rest for the night.
Definitely.
So it was good and bad. The best part, though, was that instead of sitting home all summer, being cooped up and feeling horrible, we were out.
Right.
And we were doing this huge adventure while everyone else was cooped up. That had a lot of people reading my blog. I kept a blog every day about what we were doing. And we had avid followers because they had nothing else to do.
Right.
Right? Like they're stuck at home going, look, where's Teri and Bruce today?
Exactly. Well, that is awesome. Now, I'd love to ask this question, and people have been on these big epic adventures, which is when you finally got to DC, whatever your what your stopping point was. One, how did you feel when you got to wherever,
so we stopped at the Marine Corps Memorial because we were
okay, so
money
the
for
Marine
Toys for
Corps
Tots.
Memorial, that was your finish line.
Right.
So you ride up there, you're like ecstatic that you finished.
Right.
Because I know this happened. So how long after that did you ask yourself, now what?
Oh, I think I was asking myself like the day before, because we stayed in actually a nice hotel. Normally we were staying in campgrounds or motels, and that's a kind thing to call them. And this time we stayed.
You had a roof over your head. Sometimes that's
that was
all
you enough,
need,
right?
Yeah.
So we had actually stayed in a hotel, not a motel, a hotel, and it was nicer. And I went and I got my hair cut. Like we're gonna come in now, right? And there are people that, and I do try. We washed our bike. We were all ready, and it was on that day that I'm going, well, what are we gonna do when this is done?
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how we're gonna fill our time.
Yeah.
I have spent so long doing nothing but get up, ride, set up camp, get our clothes washed in the sink, hang them, make sure we eat, write in my blog, go to bed, get up, tear all of that down, get it packed up, get our breakfast, get on the bicycle, ride, do it again. Like that's what we had been doing for so long. I couldn't even imagine what a day was going to look like.
Absolutely. And Teri, I too, and in my epic adventures have said that you spend all that time focused on here. I want to get to this destination. I want to accomplish this. And it's awesome. I'm not taking away from how ecstatic you are. I asked the question of you specifically because, for a reason, which is you do get to the end of this. I finished my first marathon. I was so excited. And then I said, now what? Like, this is great, but it doesn't end here.
Right. So for me, it was interesting. I started the ride as someone who was still pretty damaged from having been in that horrible relationship. Bruce and I had gotten married. He's a wonderful guy. but there's a lot of me that is afraid. I was afraid of a lot of things. Afraid
Sure.
it's even afraid to go get us a room in a motel, which I know is stupid, but it's where I was. I was just in this, I can't put myself out there. By the end, that was all gone. We're doing the last, mile. Bruce can see where we're stopping because there's a flag. And he says, "Do you see that flag?" I said, "Yes." He said, "That's it. That's where we're stopping." Well, I'm laughing and crying at the same time, like, whoa, we've done it. And then I had this like epiphany. I just rode across the United States on a tandem bicycle. Me, a non-athletic woman who had not been on a bicycle in 40 years. And I did that. That means that I can do anything I put my mind to.
Absolutely.
It's not a matter of can I do it, but what do I want to do? And so I asked myself, what do you want to do? And the answer was, I want to be an author. And 14 months later, my first novel came out.
There you go, Teri. And yes, we are all a lot more resilient than we believe. And it is things like riding across the country, starting something new, be it
Right.
running, riding a bike, just
Learning to paint.
learning to paint.
Taking up a new hobby. I tell people all the time, my book, though it's filled with bicycling things because that's the adventure that I took, is really for people who realize that they put themselves in a box and want to get out of that box.
Absolutely.
That they want to do something, and it could be something like get into or out of a relationship, move to a new town, start a new job, start a business, pick up a new hobby. It doesn't have to be right across the US. It can be anything that kind of puts you just a little bit more outside of your comfort zone than you're used to.
Well, to not be entirely too self-aggrandized, it does start with that one step forward, that just
Yes.
deciding that here's something I want to do. And more importantly, I'm sure that you and Bruce did not have all the answers to all of the challenges that came up. And yet it doesn't stop you from
Right.
still going on the adventure and accepting that there is a whole lot of unknown. You don't know
Yes.
how this is going to go, but every morning you get up, you get on the bike and say,
We're going to do our best today.
right. And I remind people all the time that for some reason, when we talk about our epic dreams, people say, well, I mean, I have to know absolutely everything and how to do it. And I'm like, but when you get up in the morning, you don't have the answers to all the questions you're going to get today. And yet you still got up. That is, life is, we don't have all the answers. Yes, it's good to plan. It's good to have.
Oh, right.
I'm not saying that you don't
want
plan.
some basic stuff done, but I've determined that the definition of adventure is you have this idea, you plan, and on day one, you recognize that there's no amount of planning that really got you ready for this, and you do it anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And really, that if you understood how difficult it was going to be and how many things you didn't know, it would probably paralyze you and stop you from going. So you plan to the best of your ability, and then you have to swivel. And I'm not good at that. That is not my strong suit. I like things to be nice and neat. And I was the person, now you'll get a kick out of this. At the kitchen table prior to us leaving, I had set up a plan. So I knew where we were going to ride to every day. And
Makes
I had it
sense.
I had it all set out. I knew where we were going to stay. On day one, we did not go as far as I thought we would because we were crossing over a mountain range, and having not crossed over too many of those, I was unaware of how long that was going to take. But that was okay. I adjusted. Day two, we also didn't make it as far as I had assumed. Day three, I threw that away.
Yeah.
Because you really cannot plan 3 months of adventure from your kitchen table without being on that adventure, because every day the weather could be different. Maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. Maybe you're having issues with the bicycle, and we're only going to be able to get to the first town with a bike shop so that we can fix whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh yeah, on that Tuesday, we're going to have 3 flat tires, so I won't be able. You don't know that until you're there doing it.
Absolutely. So one thing I love to ask my guests is for me, my book, I love these two words, not yet. The optimism of saying I'm doing something, but it's going to take time. So you and I as authors know not yet. Oh, Teri, has your book come out? Not
Yeah, not
yet.
yet. Not yet.
And
Right.
is since you've written 3 books, I've written 3 books, you got a 4th one coming out. Oftentimes the hardest or the longest part is not actually writing the book, but it's editing the book.
Oh, editing takes forever.
It does.
Absolutely takes forever. Something funny that Bruce would tell people, because, as we're going along, we're on a tandem bicycle with a trailer. We're obviously doing something. We're also filthy. I mean, everything is just covered. And
Sure.
so people would say all the time, "Where are you headed?" Like they
Mhm.
knew we weren't out for an afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And Bruce always said, "Washington, D.C., but not today."
Yeah.
And that's so true. We had to focus on the day that we were on. And sometimes we had to focus on just the pedal stroke that we were pedaling at that moment. You
Yeah.
couldn't go further than that. You were
Absolutely.
just dealing with, and it's the same with writing a book. It's the same with pretty much anything you do in your life. You have to, they talk all the time about being present in the moment,
Yeah.
right? Well, when you're doing something like riding across the United States, you have no choice but to be in the moment.
Absolutely. And look, riding your bike long distances, be it just you're out on your own and doing a 40-mile ride, whatever. It's great to say, here's where I'm going. Here's where
Right.
I want to get to. But when I was running marathons, I can say, I know the destination. I know I'm at mile 5. But I have to run the road that's in front of me. You have to
Yeah.
ride the
Yeah.
road that's in front of you. You have to write the chapter
That's in front of you.
in front of you.
You can't focus on the destination because there's a lot between where you are and where you wanna be, and so
Absolutely.
you
Well, it's
have to
good to know
focus.
that you want to get
Yeah,
to
yeah,
someplace.
you
Obviously.
it's good to have that there, but your attention can't be focused there. It's kind of this thing on the side that that's where we're headed, but
Yeah.
right now, I'm dealing with this hill,
Yeah.
you
Absolutely.
know?
Now, so my question to you is, what are 1 or 2 of your not yets?
Okay, so I would love to be a public speaker.
Okay.
And that isn't happening yet. However, I have gotten on a lot of podcasts, so I feel like I am moving in that direction. I have a book that I can talk about, things that I've learned. I have things in place, and I'm moving in that direction, but it's not yet. So
There
that's
you
one.
go.
I mean, that's definitely one. Another, unfortunately, in 22, my husband was diagnosed with glioblastoma,
Oh, I'm
and
so sorry.
he passed away a year ago, and so I am now figuring out new Teri, like, what does this look like? And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've decided is that I would like to try riding a bicycle just me. And so there are a couple of rides. I wouldn't do it completely alone because I definitely would need the support of others. But I'm looking at some group rides where I go and do something that would be epic for me.
Sure.
Um,
And epic
it's
look,
not it's not gonna be across the US like it was with my husband, but something bigger that I can say, "I've taken what I learned from him and I've moved on." And
ab
that's also a not yet, but it's in the works. So,
that is awesome, Terry.
yeah.
And any way I can support you in
Super.
both of those, well, know
Mm,
that I'm all about supporting people's epic because it is, and it's great to realize that, look, we have setbacks in life. We have
yeah,
things that happen, but life is a participatory sport.
yeah,
Whether you participate today or not, your life still goes on.
yeah, yeah.
Much better to be a participant in it, not sit on the sidelines going, "Woe is me."
Mhm.
So,
Well, and so it's one of the reasons why I no longer believe in bucket lists. I say if you have a bucket list, that's just a big bucket of wishes that you're not likely to ever get to. So instead, look at that list, find the 1 or 2 things that really, I don't know, grab you,
yeah,
and go do something today that starts you forward on that. It may take you 6 years, it may take you 15 years, but start doing something that moves you toward that item. I would rather die doing working toward something.
Absolutely.
Than have this list of 63 things I wish I had done.
Absolutely. But a bucket look, I will say, I think a bucket list is good because that is your epic list of here's my list of not yets. And what
I like to focus mine down a little more though.
Absolutely.
Like let's focus on 2 not yets. And once those are done, I
now
will
you
then
can
look
go
at
to
my
the
next
next.
not yets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, it helps you say, all right, here's this list of things that I think I want to do. And look, there's nothing wrong. There are things on my not yet list that may never come. I may never do it. However, it's on my not yet. Whether I achieve it or not, I still say I'm leaving open the possibility that I can do these things. I just
hate to see people though who have the bucket list and aren't moving.
Absolutely. I'm not, again,
the ones that they have the list. Oh, someday I'd like to write a book and I would like to see all 50 states and I would like to, and it's like, and you're doing what about any of that?
Absolutely, Teri.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, when you take that one step forward, look, oftentimes there are many, many steps and stuff. And look, your epic does not, I want my audience to know, and you know this, Teri, which sometimes they are truly grand epic things. Ride across the country on a tandem bike, hugely epic. Write a book, hugely epic. But sometimes the epics are much smaller. You say you want to be a public speaker. So maybe what you do is you call up your local Rotary and say, hey, I'd love to be a lunchtime speaker.
Right.
That whole thing is over. That epic's over in 30 minutes.
Exactly.
But you do, and you can go, that is awesome. I am a public speaker. I went out and spoke in public and it was great. And maybe you're like, check mark, I don't need to do that again. And we do have those epics where we're like, that was great, but I don't feel the need to have to do that one again.
Well, and it's funny. I do not feel the need to ride across the US again.
There you go.
I mean, it was so fantastic and I am so glad I did it. I can't imagine my life without it. I also don't need to do it twice to prove anything. I've done that one.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of other things on my I sure would like to try that list that I can't imagine that I really want to do that one again.
Yeah.
And I know people who do. I know people who, like every other year, they ride across the US on their bicycle, and this is like a big thing for them. Great for you. It's not something that would have any real value for me. I already proved to myself that I could do that.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on.
Absolutely. Well, Teri, you and I obviously could talk for hours about all of this. People are like, enough about the bicycle, Xander. But anyway, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. How can people get your book, find you, connect with you?
The best way is to go to my website, which is my name, TeriMBrown.com. That's Teri with one R. There you can find everything. You can find my books. You can find the podcast that I do where I talk with other authors about their books. It's called Online for Authors. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can find all my social media. And I even just have a contact me page if you wanted to reach out and say hi.
Cool. Well, Teri, thank you so very much. What an epic adventure that you've been on and you are on. It's so great to be able to talk to you. And I've loved this.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic adventure, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Xander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Xander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.